So I actually grew up here in Durban, in South Africa. Durban is one of three major cities in South Africa. You got Johannesburg, Cape Town, and then Durban on the east coast. We are a coastal town. We're a surface town. The climate, I think, is fairly similar to maybe Miami, something like that. Very warm, very tropical. Durban is kind of known as the laid-back, casual city. Very much an outdoor surfer, haven. We're close to some mountains nearby, so it's a very outdoor kind of environment. When I finished high school, I went down to Cape Town to study at the University of Cape Town. I became a physical therapist, and then as part of my degree, I worked a year of community service in a rural hospital in the northern part of South Africa, right on the Mozambican border, in a very rural hospital there, which was just an amazing year of serving the poorest of the poor in our country. And then that's where I actually met Jess. So Grace Family Church, I'd given my life to God in my last year of university, and had a kind of a radical turnaround. And then I joined a mission trip that Grace Family Church were doing to Mozambique, because I was living right there and I heard they were doing this trip. And that's where I met Jess. Saw her in a bikini, and that was the end of me. You can cut that part out. But yeah, and then we started dating, and I think we were dating for like 6 months, and then we got engaged, and a year later we were married, and then we spent a few years living and traveling abroad in the UK and Canada, in the US. We did a Christian summer camp in Canada, and then we, like I said, I think earlier, worked a ski season in Colorado, and traveled around. So that's kind of our little life story, and then came back to Grace and have been at Grace since 2007. Got 2 boys named William and Luke. They are 12 and 10, and they are wild and awesome and excited to come live in America. I wouldn't say I grew up non-Christian, but in a sense, and I wasn't atheist, but I guess I was kind of agnostic. I grew up in the Catholic tradition, and not knocking the Catholic tradition in any way, but it kind of, for me, my view of God was, the old white dude with the long white beard sitting on the cloud, with his lightning bolt, waiting for me to mess up and wrap me over the knuckles. I realize now that that's actually not the Christian God. That's a pagan God. That's Zeus, But that was kind of how I viewed God. And so when I got to university down in Cape Town, the shackles were off, and I was living my best life as a 18, 19-year-old. And so I lived pretty wild, and it was all about sex and partying and all women and all that sort of stuff. And I was, I did pretty well at school, and I was a national gymnast competing internationally for South Africa. And so I thought I had life made, and I realize now, looking back, that it was all about ego, and it was all about, I'm a 3 on the Enneagram, so it's like performance, and you got to be the best. So if I was going to be the best at gymnastics, or I was going to be the best at partying, I was going to be the best, And I realized now, looking back, that a lot of it had to do with just trying to fill a hole that I had. I think a need for approval that I didn't feel that I got from my father, and that kind of played out that way. And then I remember I woke up one morning, and it had been a particularly heavy night the night before, and I remember waking up and just thinking, is this it? Is this what life is about? Is it all going to just be about partying and success? And I remember thinking, is there more to life than this? And that started a sort of existential crisis for me. And I had Christian friends who I studied with that I knew loved me and extended incredible grace to me. I knew they didn't approve of my lifestyle, but they still loved me, and they didn't seem judgmental or shaming, as that was kind of my experience of religion up to that point. So I decided I would attend the church that they went to, and I went one Sunday. It was like a campus church, and it was, from my perspective, a happy, clappy church, and I was a bit freaked out, but there was something there that attracted me, and I actually ended up joining a small group of young guys, and it was through the love and the care of those guys that really helped me to eventually, and somewhat reluctantly, give my life to Jesus, And from there, things happened pretty quickly. Things changed pretty quickly. I was like all in now. If I'm gonna do this Christian thing, and it wasn't long after that I started a Bible study and started leading that, and then that kind of snowballed, and pretty quickly I realized that God was actually calling me into full-time ministry. By this time I was now out of university. I was working as a physiotherapist, and Jess and I had just met, and we were started to date. And I remember her telling me one time, she was like, "I'll never marry a pastor." She grew up as a pastor's kid. And then I was like, oh my goodness, if I tell her that I'm called to ministry, she's going to break up with me. So I didn't tell her for a while. And then eventually I was like, okay, and I just said, babe, I think God is calling me into full-time ministry. And she said, I think he's calling me too. And so that was just like confirmation for us that this was where God had us. And that was like 20 something years ago. So. Yeah, so like I said, I got two boys, William and Luke. We just absolutely love our boys. We're loving the stage. William means strong-willed warrior, which there have been times where we've wished we'd called him a name that meant obedient and compliant one, but that's not the case. But he is strong-willed, but we absolutely love him. He's got so much energy. Both of them have so much energy. Lukey's super into his soccer. You guys call it soccer, football, whatever, and they're both into their sport. William actually broke a world record when he was 7 years old. He did a monkey bar challenge where he hung for like 29 minutes unbroken. Anyway, so these are our boys. They are wild. Be prepared, Eastern Hills. They're coming in hot. And so they're very physical. They're very much outdoors. They love to do all things trail running and skiing. Funnily enough, we have a little ski hill in South Africa. It's about 5-6 hours drive away, and it's like an 800-meter little slope with a T-bar. And my boys think that is like the ultimate, destination in the world. So I think if we ever got a chance to go up to the Colorado mountains and ski, I think their minds would literally just explode. So yeah, we're super excited about our boys in this next season. My wife, Jess, is also on staff here at Grace. She's a preaching pastor. She's an author. She's written 2 books. She is amazing. She is a 4 on the Enneagram. So I know you guys are into the Enneagram thing. She is a 4, like she's the 4est of all the 4s. She does not have emotions. She is emotions. And so being married to her is, we have a very passionate, feisty relationship, but we love it, and she takes no nonsense from me. We've been through lots of ups and downs. We've been together now for 18 years, and we still deeply and passionately love one another. We haven't murdered each other yet, which I think is a great thing, and we love pursuing God's adventures together. We are an adventurous family. We love to take risks and to dream big, and that's part of why we feel this sense of call to a new adventure with E-Hills and a new adventure in Colorado and with God and with you all. So that's just a very quick little snapshot into our family. I know that when we were out visiting E-Hills, Jess certainly stole the show, and I know she's going to do that when at E-Hills. You're going to absolutely love her. Yeah. So yeah, so you may have picked this up if you have followed me on Instagram or anything like that. I am an avid athlete, and particularly I have a love for a very weird sport called obstacle course racing, or OCR, and it's just like army PT basically. It's a bit crazy. We like to crawl under barbed wire and run around. And this has led me to places around the world to compete, even to breaking a world record at Mount Everest last year, which was a crazy experience. And to be honest, my kind of fitness OCR part of my life is sort of, for me personally, I think it helps keep me grounded and sane in the midst of all the challenges of ministry. I had a back injury a couple of years ago that kept me out for almost a whole year, and I think Jess realized just how much Tom actually needs to do this stuff, because when he doesn't, he's pretty grumpy. And so for me, my exercise and my OCR is kind of a safe place for me to be. I think I shared this with the search team, like where I can just be Tom and not Pastor Tom, where the people that I'm training alongside, they don't really care that I'm a pastor, or And that I find super refreshing, to be honest, and it helps me keep me in touch with, the outside world in a sense. And I've actually loved seeing so many of my unsaved friends in that world actually come to faith, or I've been part of leading them to faith, because I think, they know I don't have an agenda. I've been training with them for 2-3 years, and then suddenly they go through, without trying to force anything on them or Bible bash them, and then suddenly when they find themselves going through a difficult season, I often find that I'm the one who gets that call, and can help them. So for me, that space is a great place. I always joke, we try here at Grace, I don't know what's like at Eastern, we try kind of push down the whole like Pastor Tom thing, just Tom, because, you play golf with guys and, they don't know what you do, and they first 9 holes they're telling all the rude jokes and swearing up a storm, and then I'm waiting for it because you get to the halfway house and they ask you, so Tom, what do you do? And then I relish telling them, I say, well, actually I'm a pastor, and then you can see their eyes get really big, like they're rewinding all their rude jokes. The next 9 holes is lovely, they're like, great putt, pastor, amen, well done, giving me their church CV. But I think having a safe space outside of church world has been really healthy and healing for me, just in terms of my own mental health and journey of faith. So that's some of my hobbies. Our boys, they're also super into their OCR, soccer, cricket, rugby, field hockey. I know none of these sports make any sense to you Americans, so it's they're going to have to learn a whole new bunch of sports. We're trying to get them into basketball and baseball, and guys, I don't know, it doesn't make sense to me. Even when Eastern Hills did that series, bottom of the ninth, I was like, what does bottom of the ninth mean? I had to look it up. So we got a learning curve, but that's our boys, and I think Colorado is going to suit us because we love the outdoors and adventure. Oh, that's an interesting question. Do I have a favorite scripture? I have a lot of favorite scriptures. I think probably one of the sort of fundamental ones is Micah 6:8, well-known verse. What does the Lord require of you? Do justice, love mercy, walk humbly. I've actually got a tattoo on my forearm that says do, love, walk. And I purposely put it here because it's a reminder to me every day of exactly that, that we're called to make a difference in our world, to do justice, to walk humbly. We don't do it in our own strength, we do it in God's strength, and so to love mercy. And so that's a key verse for me. I think Proverbs 3, I think it's Proverbs 3:6. I love that verse. It says, never let loyalty and kindness leave you, tied around your neck, write it in your heart. And so again, I've got a couple tattoos. I hope that doesn't offend anyone, but I've got a tattoo on my neck that says be kind, kind of kindness around my neck, never let it leave me. And I've actually got it written in reverse script, so if you look at me, it reads backwards, but if I look at myself in the mirror, it says be kind. And part of the reason why I did that is because I'm not always kind, and I need to be reminded to just be kind. We always like to say at Grace that everyone's fighting a battle that you know nothing about, so just be kind. And so I seek to try and do that. So that verse has always struck to me, and I think, especially in Christian world, you can be right about something, but be a real idiot about being right. Let's be honest. Being right and being righteous are not always the same. And I think there's a way to be right in a way that is kind and loving and gracious. The Pharisees were right, but Jesus was truthful and he was kind. And I think I strive to seek to do that in my life. So those are just 2 verses. I could give you a whole bunch more, but those are some of my favorite verses.